Warning. Before you begin to watch this or do any study of another religion, pray for guidance. While it is good to know what the enemy is up to, it is better to not fall prey to its beliefs. Do you want to know why Islam hates the Jews so much? Stick around, I'll show you what the King James Bible tells us. For those that do not understand, or care to understand, the Islamic religion, I urge you to do some form of study on it. Even if it is just within this video. But please pray for the guidance not to be led astray. It is too easy to be influenced by the world around you. Just like the world can influence dreams. That is why God told the Israelites to stay away from the surrounding nations, because he knew they could easily fall into those practices. They might seem appealing, or cause you to have doubts about the one true God. So, please pray. Years ago when I did this study on the similarities with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, I caught myself thinking how all three are actually worshipping the same God. Here's what I learned in my study. You will see how I fell into that trap. In the King James Bible, there is an Old Testament and a New Testament. The Jewish nation, Judaism, knows and follows the Old Testament. It is to them their Tanakh. It contains the laws, or Torah. Christians use both but, primarily focusing on the New Testament as we believe Jesus Christ as the Messiah, and the Jewish see him as merely a crazy blasphemous man. The Islamic religion also believes in the Old Testament, however, their views on Adam, Noah, and Abraham differ slightly. Did you know that all three religions are mentioned in the King James Bible? Two of them are quite obvious, while the other has little mention. Now mind you that the term Islam is not used in the King James, but, from it, we can find its roots. It is interesting that as Christians we can accept the beliefs of Judaism and have a sadness for them because they do not know Jesus, but we cannot and will not accept the Islamic, or Muslim, religion. The Jewish nation and the Christians believe in the same God. The difference is that Christians believe God came to us in human form as Jesus Christ. The Islamic God, Allah, is the God of the Old Testament, with a twist. A God of war, vengeance, and punishment. So, why is the Islamic God different from the Jewish and Christian God when we basically all follow the same start? Let's find out in our King James Bible.
Genesis 16 verses 1-4. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children. And she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar her maid the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
Abraham's wife, Sarah, was old in age and could not have children of her own will. She told Abraham to go to Hagar, her handmaid, and lay with her so that maybe she could gain children that way, and Abraham would have children to pass his inheritance on to. After it was all said and done, Hagar became pregnant and Sarah became upset about the whole thing and took it out on Hagar. We often do that in our own lives. Not thinking through the whole outcome of events. It sounded good at the time, then we have regret after it's done and over. Hagar gave Abraham a son, Ishmael. Sarah, jealous of the outcome, sent Hagar away.
Genesis 16 verses 6-12. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thine hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction, and he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren.
God promised Hagar that her seed would be multiplied exceedingly. This seed will be against every man, and every man will be against it. Christianity teaches that Abraham's seed was multiplied and blessed. However, they teach that this seed is only the Jewish nation. When God told Abraham that his seed will be multiplied, he meant all of Abraham's seed, including Ishmael. Christians are taught about the 12 tribes of Israel. These are the sons of Jacob, the son of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham. These are the ones whom are blessed and multiply. They never mention the other 12 tribes that are also blessed and multiply. God told Abraham.
Genesis 17 verses 5 to 7. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. Genesis 17 verses 19 to 21. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. Genesis 24 verses 12 to 17. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their towns, and by their castles, 12 princes, according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people.
Hopefully, now you have learned that through Abraham's seed came the birth of 2 main religions: Judaism and Islam. These 2 are brothers. Brothers who just can't seem to get along. Why?
Genesis 21 verses 10 to 21. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman. In all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread, and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and the child, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went, and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lift up her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand. For I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went, and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt.
After Isaac was born, Sarah could not bear the thought of the son of a slave sharing an inheritance with her son. So, she had Abraham cast away Hagar and Ishmael. But God promised Hagar that her son would be a great nation. However, That nation will not be included in the covenant made between God and Abraham, for that was made for Isaac.
Genesis 17 verses 20 to 21. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee, behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac.
Another story where Ishmael was belittled was when his brother Isaac blessed his son Jacob, Ishmael's nephew, and sent him for a wife. He was absolutely not to take a wife from the Canaanites, which was Ishmael's land. Jacob's older brother, Esau, being upset with Isaac, his father, because Jacob got the blessing, went to Ishmael and took Ishmael's daughter for a wife, because he knew it would displease his father, Isaac. Isaac and Ishmael never seemed to get along. Do the Islamics actually understand why they hate the Jewish so much? I don't think they do. I think down the line things changed, and as generations are born and grow, so does the hatred and the reason for the hatred. Looking back on how it all started, I find a sadness for the Muslims. I can understand why they feel the way they do. I feel sadness, not so much because they were cast aside, but because they do not see the blessing the true God has given them. They are so filled with envy, hate, and vengeance that they are blinded from the truth. This begins the message of this video. While Islam started out with belief in the same God as Judaism, there was an infiltration hundreds of years ago. The main character in Islam is Muhammad. Muhammad lived approximately 570 AD to 632 AD. He is considered the last prophet sent by God to deliver the Quran, the Islamic holy book. It is said that the angel Gabriel gave Muhammad messages from God to share with his people. He wrote them down and began to teach these words. Muhammad actually accepted Christians when he first started out. I won't go into a lot about Muhammad. I only want to show you how the Islam religion started to change. The King James Bible states that Satan and his angels can appear as angels of good. Perhaps this Gabriel was merely an impostor of the real one. Just as I believe the angel that spoke to Joseph Smith was an impostor and the angels of many other religions. The Muslim community was heavy into idolatry when Muhammad began. His main messages were about the oneness of a single God. Much like Judaism and Christianity. However, unlike Judaism and Christianity views of if they don't join you, avoid them, Islam turned to if they don't join you, kill them. Not all Muslims adhere to this belief. Just like the Christian faith has different views or denominations, so does the Islamic faith. God turned into someone different to them and they never knew it happened. I am a believer that all good believable lies contain hidden truth. Whether it is tone of voice, body movements, or in the words themselves. That is how you can tell if someone is lying. You spot that hidden truth, and if it doesn't jibe with the rest of it, then you see the lie. Satan is the master liar. He knows he has to throw some truth out there to make the lie believable. He has worked his way into a nation that was rejected and played upon their misguided faith. These plans he has for the Islamic community coincide with the Christian end-time events. That is why I felt a need to study this topic. The Islamic end-time events are about to unfold, which means that our Christian end-time events will soon follow. Let me explain. Islam eschatology, the study or belief of end-time events, centers around someone called the Al-Mahdi, their ultimate savior of mankind. Some Muslims believe that this man will be the 12th Imam that is from the lineage of Muhammad and even has the name Muhammad. It is believed that this Imam has been hidden by God until the time to reveal him. I won't go into the study about this man. My message is to go forward to the Al-Mahdi, no matter if he is the 12th Imam or not. This Al-Mahdi has many titles. The Guided One, the Awaited One, the Rising One, the Master or Leader of the Age, the Guardian of the Era or Twilight of Man, the Proof of Allah's Justice. Do you notice how many of these are the same names given about the Christian end times Antichrist? The Islamic religion also recognizes Jesus. They call him Isa. Isa is a prophet to the Muslims, not a savior. Isa will emerge with the Al-Mahdi. This fits into place with the beast and false prophet of Christian eschatology. The Almighty will rule for 7 years with Issa as his aide. They will fight against Masih ad-Dajjal, or the false Messiah, and his followers. Issa will rule for 40 years until his death, and he will be buried next to Muhammad, where an empty tomb already awaits him. He will be the first to rise during the resurrection at the Day of Judgment. Mind you, that just like Christian beliefs, there are different views on how long these events take place. What I hope to give you are puzzle pieces that we can fit into place. There is so much commonality that these things should not be overlooked. Remember, Satan places truth within lies. Let's look at the commonalities. The Antichrist will be a charismatic speaker and leader. So will the Almighty. The false prophet will support the Antichrist and deceive the world into following him. So will Issa. The Antichrist and the false prophet will have a powerful army that will do great damage to the earth in order to subdue it and follow them. So will the Almighty and Issa. The false prophet is described as a dragon in lamb's clothing. Issa will come bearing the name that the world knows as the Lamb of God and yet teach Islam. The Antichrist and the false prophet establish a new world order. So will the Almighty and Issa. The Antichrist is said to change the times. The Almighty almost certainly will adopt use of the Islamic calendar for use worldwide. The Antichrist and false prophet will make a universal and mandatory religion. The Almighty and Issa will institute Islam as the only acceptable religion. The Antichrist and false prophet will execute by beheading anyone who does not accept their religion. The Almighty and Issa will execute by beheading anyone who does not accept Islam. Beheading has been the official method of execution for Islam since the days of Muhammad and still is to this very day. The Antichrist will have a specific agenda to kill as many Jews as possible. The Almighty and Issa will have an order from Allah to root out and kill all Jews. The Antichrist and false prophet will attack and conquer Jerusalem. The Almighty and Issa will attack and conquer Jerusalem in the name of Islam. The Antichrist will set himself up in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem as his seat of authority. The Almighty will establish the Islamic Caliph from Jerusalem. The Caliph is a religious and political leader of all Islam and all Muslims. With the whole world having to accept Islam, he will in effect be a world ruler from Jerusalem. Most Christian churches teach that the Antichrist will make a peace treaty with Israel for 7 years. The Almighty will rule 7 years. Jesus at his second coming will defend Jerusalem and Israel from an attack by a gathering of nations led by the Antichrist and the false prophet. Islam warns that the Masih ad-Dajjal, the Muslim Antichrist or false Messiah, will appear and fool Jews into thinking he is Jesus the Messiah and fight for them. The Quran warns Muslims to ignore everything he says and flee from him. It is believed that the Masih ad-Dajjal will appear before the Almighty and Issa. So I do not see a connection with the Islamic Masih ad-Dajjal and the real second coming of Jesus Christ. I do see where Jesus said many will come in his name. When I started this study several years ago, I just couldn't fit it together. I knew there was something familiar about the Islamic beliefs. In the King James Bible, a beast is a kingdom or nation. That is what the real angel Gabriel told Daniel. The beast in Revelation is no different. It is not a man. It is a nation. The Antichrist is one of the beast's horns. A ruler or leader of the beast. In another study, I will show you why I believe the fourth beast kingdom is the Islamic nation. With so much being in common, it would be good to know some of the signs the Muslims are waiting for. The Almighty will have a broad forehead, prominent nose, and a mark on his right cheek. He will come from the house of Muhammad of the lineage of Fatima. He will appear after a great conflict in Syria destroys the nation. He will not know who he is at first. His colors will be that of Muhammad, black and unstitched, with a halo. He will pray in Mecca, with Issa praying behind him. Issa will emerge with the Almighty, or shortly after. He will descend with each hand on the shoulder of an angel at the point of the white arcade, east of Damascus, dressed in a light-colored robe, and his head will be anointed. One of the hadith state, the hour will not be established until the son of Mary, Issa, descends amongst you as a just ruler. He will break the cross, kill the pigs, and abolish the jizya tax. Money will be in abundance so that nobody will accept it as charitable gifts. Christianity has declined in the United States, from 91% of the population in 1976 to 64% in 2022. The number of Islamic mosques have risen significantly in recent years. Islam is on the rise, with many people leaving their religion and converting to Islam. It is the fastest growing religion in the world, including America. Islam is sneaking into our everyday lives. Christianity is being dropped, shunned, and almost illegal. It is a step that will make it easier for the Almighty to take his place. There is a lot of symbolism in our world. If you study the King James Bible deep enough, you will find some very interesting things. Isaiah 46 verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. The end was declared from the beginning. Let's look at the beginning. In Genesis 1 verse 16, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. The greater light is the sun. From science, we know that the sun is a star, unlike the other stars. The lesser light is the moon. Lesser because it does not give off its own light. This moon shows itself to be greater than the star or sun. Very interesting, huh?